Well, I was just wondering, like, why does the Bible say if you look at a woman with lust, then you committed adultery in your heart? I don't understand. I just don't understand, why does it say adultery instead of fornication?
Why does the Bible say adultery instead of fornication? Let's go look at that. It's the fifth chapter of the book of Matthew. And we're going to, at the 27th verse, Joshua, go ahead and turn it down. Verse number 3. You turned it down? Okay, thank you. All right. The 5th chapter of Matthew, verse 27 says, "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." So he was addressing the idea of committing adultery to begin with. You see what I mean? And so he was just basically clarifying this. Because see, fornication in actuality involves more than just sleeping with somebody. If that make any sense. And so he's going to the full act of being involved or intimate with somebody, committing adultery. And so look at what he's putting it out there regardless of who they belong to. If they're married or whatever, you've committed adultery with her already in your heart. So he's talking about married on either end. Whether she's married or whether you're married, whether she's unmarried or whatever, however you want to formulate that, he's calling it adultery. You see that? Now, in reality, what he's speaking about is spiritual. See, if you belong to God and you're looking at a woman lusting after her, you're more guilty of spiritual adultery than you are the actual physical part of it. And this is what he's trying to bring out. He's talking to mostly church people, because that's who are around, religious people. So look at what that says. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. So he's talking about just that, committing adultery. But he's basically just making the point that you don't have to do the act to be guilty of it. You know, and you may have heard people say when they, just young and don't know any better, I guess, it ain't no harm to look. And here he's saying it is. You're just as guilty. You're just as guilty if you look. And notice again what he says, with her. I'm glad you brought this up, because now you can see it in the Bible for yourself. He's doing it with her. I want you to think about something. He says all manner of sin basically begins in the heart. He said, adultery, fornication, stealing, idolatry, all of those things begin in the heart. Now we always look at King David when we think about adultery. We think about how he took Bathsheba and slept with her. But the Bible says that Bathsheba was bathing when he looked at her. Now my question is this: who bathes where somebody can be way over there somewhere and can see it? Who bathes that way? You see, you got to look at both sides of it. He wouldn't have been able to see her had she been curtains closed, door closed, or whatever. So this was the devil was working on both ends. And that's basically what, my wife was bringing out earlier, how the enemy, he works on both ends. It's not just, oh, I'm innocent and, this is just me and things like that. The devil works on both ends. And so not only is the man guilty for looking at the woman, but the woman may be guilty for causing the man to look. So does that answer your question? He's talking about adultery, and so he just lets them know, if you look at a woman to lust after her, you've committed adultery already. So that's why we have to renew our minds. That's why we have to renew our minds. All right. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? All right. Let's read verse 29 now. We'll just go ahead and get this out here. And we're talking about, again, we'll say this again, the vices of Satan. Look at what he says there in verse 29 in this same chapter. He says, "And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell." Let me ask y'all this. Did he mean that literally? You say yeah. What does everybody? Does everybody say yeah? Do y'all think he meant that literally? Well, let's think about it. And you can get your answer if you look at what he said earlier. What was he talking about? Looking at a woman to lust after her. And so then he goes right into that, into if your right eye offends you, pluck it out. So did he mean that literally? I'll get into the spiritual part later, but did he mean that literally? Yes, he did. He meant that literally. If your eyes are getting you in trouble, don't you know that's why in the Middle East to this day, if you steal something, they cutting your hand off? To this day, they do that. And and not only that, they cut your right hand off. Now I don't know how much you know about Middle Eastern custom, but your right hand is sacred. Because that's the hand you shake hands with. That's the hand that you eat with. It don't matter if you're left-handed. If you are born left-handed, you're going to learn to eat with your right hand. You want to know why? Because your left hand is considered a filthy hand. You know why? Because over in the Middle East, they don't use toilet paper. So if you want to get into a fight, you just go try shaking somebody's hand with your left hand over there. So your left hand is considered unclean. And so if you get caught stealing, they cut off your right hand. You ain't shaking nobody's hand. And you're going to have to eat with your boo-boo hand. And you think about it, they also don't use spoons and forks as much as we do. So there you go. So he meant that literally. But let's think beyond that and also what he meant was spiritually. If I have a problem, let's just put it this way, spiritually speaking now, if I have a problem with pornography, there are only a few ways I'm going to be able to see it. Through the internet, my DVD player, VHS, or whatever. So he's saying, if your right hand offends you or your right eye, pluck it out. In other words, whatever is making the provision for you to sin, get it away from you. If you know you have a problem with pornography, don't tempt God, and don't put yourself out there and tempting yourself. You believe it or not, you can make it without the internet. You have, and they show all kind of garbage on HBO after hours and stuff like that. Just whatever it is that's causing you to fall, that can be a Trojan horse in your life. Get it away from you. Don't allow the devil to come in through that door. You can cut some things off. And many of you people, that may be listening in or watching this, however you may hear it or watch it, you may have a person in your life that you just can't stop fornicating with. I've come across people, they want prayer to just get this person. They know that person's not any good for them. I need prayer, Brother Bolden, because I know this person ain't no good for me. And my question is, do you still have their contact information in your phone? Okay, you need to delete that. And all the other backups that you got. Go to your Google Drive, wherever else you done hid it at. I'm telling you something. When somebody want to be delivered from sin, they better play their part in it. God's not going to come down and delete stuff. So, I have found that deep down inside the Bible, the Bible says that sin is pleasurable for a moment. And deep down inside, there are some people that want to be in what it is that they're in. You ever notice how before Jesus Christ delivered some people, he could see clearly what was wrong with them, but he would ask them, what do you want from me? Because not everybody that's coming to the Lord want to be delivered. They may want forgiveness because they feel bad about it. But if you really want to be delivered, you're going to have to take some steps. You see that? You're going to have to take some steps. And you're going to have to deny yourself. You want it bad enough? My old predecessor said that he grew up watching his daddy smoke. And he said his daddy would vow every New Year's Eve, I ain't going to smoke. That was his New Year resolution. I ain't going to smoke. And every New Year's Eve at midnight, his daddy would take those cigarettes and throw them out in the garbage. And then he'd be looking to see where they land so he can go out and get them the next day. Yeah. But see, if you want to be delivered, there's some things you're going to have to. How many of us have ever had to do that? Purposely do like what this word says. Cut off our right eye. Plug it out, or, purposely have to do things. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When you do that, then God, that's when his power will step in. Don't ask for the power of God when it's some things that you need to do. You see that? God's power is for sincere hearts. And you're not sincere if you still got the person's number in your phone. You see? You still got all of your pornography stash somewhere, locked up. You see? And so there's some things that we have to do. And I'm gonna tell you, I can tell you that pornography is a beast. If you've never been, don't ever get caught in that. It's a beast. Anything that the devil tries to hook you with is designed to keep you bound. Don't ever allow the enemy to get you caught up in that. It's a beast. And it gives you an animalistic nature that God has to change when you've been delivered from it. You see that? Years ago, a friend of mine had called me and asked me if the Lord had showed me anything about him. And I don't mind answering that kind of thing, but I'm not quite sure people really believe that God shows things. And so I told him that one of the things that the Lord had showed me was that he was being hindered. And he said, how so? And I said, I came to your house, spiritually so, and I was looking and I was examining, and I went to your shed, and I opened up your shed, and I saw a big box of pornography movies. And I said, when I opened it up and I saw those movies, I saw two spirits come out of those movies. One of them was about that tall, and the other one was real little. The one that was real little jumped on the one on the shoulders of the taller one, and he began to swing his sword at me to try to back me up. And I said, that's your hindrance. You're not watching it, but you keeping it just in case you feel like backsliding. And so he verified that it was the truth, that that was the case. You see that? So that's a beast you don't ever get caught up in that. There's a lot of stuff that comes up with that, and that's a devil you don't want to deal with.